When the elder kindreds passed out of the known world, they did not wholly vanish. Some went beyond the circles of mortal knowledge. Some faded into secrecy, becoming rumor, song, and half-remembered grief. Some remained for a time in old forests, sea caves, mountain valleys, and lonely houses beside rivers whose names have changed beneath the tongues of men. Yet before their departure, some among them had taken spouses from the race of men. These unions were rare. Rarer still were they remembered in the histories kept by kings. Yet not all such bonds belong to princes, heroes, or houses of great renown. There were humbler unions also, hidden from heralds and forgotten by scribes. A fisher's daughter beloved by a wandering lord of twilight. A healer of men wed to a silver-haired exile. A child born in a borderland village where the old speech lingered like frost upon a bell. From these lines came the Elendi. For long ages they did not know what they were. They lived as men and women among men and women. They took ordinary names. They tilled fields, served kings, kept shops, fought wars, buried parents, baptized children, crossed oceans, built houses, ruined dinners, mended shoes, wrote poems, lost keys, and otherwise performed all the small, grand absurdities by which mankind proves it is still alive. No one called them Elendi. No hidden council marked their births. No old family chart preserved their descent. No silver-haired elder arrived at the cradle to announce that destiny had made an appointment. They appeared as normal humans, and so they were treated. Most believed themselves to be nothing else. Even the signs were misunderstood. A child born with pale hair was thought fair, strange, sickly, northern, angelic, unfortunate, or merely the reason an aunt would say something irritating at supper. A person with sharp dreams was called sensitive. A youth who heard music in running water was called imaginative. A sailor who could steer by stars better than any chart was called lucky. A craftsman whose hands seemed to know the hidden flaw in wood or stone was called gifted. The old inheritance survived, but it survived as temperament. It appeared as a hunger for beauty, a sorrow at ugliness, a strange homesickness beneath starlight, a dislike of false music, a love of silver, a talent for craft, a restless mind near the sea, an instinct for patterns that others missed. These things did not make a race in the eyes of the world. They made artists, pilots, monks, astronomers, shipwrights, architects, healers, outcasts, and those dreadful dinner guests who rearrange a room because the chair feels wrong. The blood slept. The old scholars, when they arose much later, would call its measure quanta, the living portion of elder inheritance carried in the blood, bone, voice, and inward fire of a person. Yet before the awakening, no one knew how to count it, name it, or seek it. It was never a crude fraction, as though ancestry were coins on a merchant's table. The gift moved strangely. It hid in one line for centuries, then stirred in a child who had never heard a single tale of the elder kindreds. Blood remembers by its own law. It is a poor clerk, but a wondrous poet. Then men pierced the upper dark. When mortal craft first rose beyond the old boundary and entered the heavens, something long shut was opened. The ancient world had faded into ours, but it had not died. It had waited. It waited beneath stone, sea, blood, and star. It waited beneath names that had lost their meanings. It waited in houses where no one knew why silver bowls were set beneath the night sky, or why certain songs made old women weep, though they did not know the words. Spaceflight wounded the veil between the common world and the deep structure of Arda. The stars, once remote to mortal hands, became reachable by fire and metal, and the Elendi felt it before they understood it. The change did not come all at once. It came as dreams, fevers, accidents, impossible intuitions, sudden grief beneath the night sky. Some woke from sleep speaking fragments of old tongues they had never learned. Some felt pain when rockets launched, as if a locked door inside the world had been forced open. Some became unable to ignore the stars. Others stood before machines and heard, beneath the hum of circuits, something like a song. Then came the white hair. Not in every bearer of the blood, not always at birth. In many, it appeared only after the first stirring of power, a lock above the brow, a silvering at the temples in youth, a sudden whitening after danger, awe, illness, or contact with awakened places. This was later called the Elendi mark, the star sign. Before spaceflight, white hair among the Elendi had been rare enough to pass as chance. After spaceflight, it became a herald. Families that had seemed ordinary for generations began producing children marked by silver-white hair and strange perception. Bloodlines that had lain dormant through empires, plagues, revolutions, and fluorescent office lighting began to wake. The world had mistaken them for ordinary humans because, for most purposes, they had been ordinary humans. Then the heavens opened, and the buried inheritance answered. The Elendi became differentiated only in the age of rockets. That distinction matters. They were not a secret race waiting proudly in hidden halls. They were lost descendants who had forgotten the story of their own blood. Their awakening was not a return to a known kingdom. It was the discovery of an inheritance so old that it felt almost like trespass. Many resisted the truth. Some called the changes genetic anomaly. Some called them spiritual sickness. Some called them fantasy, which is what modern people call anything old enough to make them nervous. A few hid their white hair. A few dyed it. A few joined medical studies. A few entered monasteries. A few became insufferable on the internet, proving that even awakened blood cannot cure poor manners. Yet the gifts continued. The blood did not grant great sorcery. The Elendi could not raise towers by song, command spirits by name, or bend the stars from their courses. Such powers belonged to elder days, and even then, only to mighty beings whose names were spoken with care. What returned first were the small arts. They could feel the temper of stone and water. They could hear the grief of old places. Some could mend small wounds by song, slow decay in wood or iron, call a flame to steadier burning, or find their way beneath starlight when all maps failed. A few could speak with animals in broken flashes of meaning. Others could lay quiet upon a room so that anger fell asleep before it found its teeth. Their gifts were slight, but slight things endure. A lantern is not the sun. It still saves the traveler from a ditch, which is more than the sun does at midnight. As the ninth age deepened, the awakened began to sense resonance. Certain words, places, heirlooms, songs, metals, trees, and constellations drew power from them or stirred power within them. Silver answered them more readily than iron. Running water soothed their minds. Old oaks recognized them, though trees are slow conversationalists and worse at deadlines. They were often drawn to the same callings their ancestors had chosen without knowing why. Music, astronomy, architecture, shipmaking, glasswork, healing, cartography, poetry, systems of design, the keeping of hidden histories. A badly arranged room troubled them. A false note in a hymn could sour their mood for hours. Their old instincts had survived as preferences, irritations, talents, and private oddities. Only after the awakening did those oddities become signs. The great burden of Elendi blood was not power. It was remembrance arriving without preparation. They aged as men age, though many retained a youthful countenance longer than others. Their dreams grew heavy with scenes they had never lived. They felt exile without knowing from where they had been exiled. They loved the stars with a homesickness that made no sense to their neighbors. Many carried an inward ache when standing beside the sea, as if some part of them heard a summons with no address. This was later called the sea longing in the restored tongue. Among the modern Elendi, it was often mistaken for depression, wanderlust, insomnia, artistic temperament, or the unfortunate decision to become a poet. In the Ninth Age, Elendi blood is no longer hidden in silence. It is waking. Those who bear enough quanta may learn the small arts: star sight, quieting, warding, mending, beast speech, dream reading, craft blessing, and the reading of hidden resonance. Their powers remain modest. Yet in an age of machines, satellites, engines, and electric noise, modest magic may tip the balance at the hour of need. The Elendi were not preserved as curiosities. They were preserved as bridges. Through them, the fading world of the elder kindreds touches the world of circuits and rockets. Through them, the long grief of the ancient earth passes into the age of orbit and flame. Their white hair is no ancient badge proudly guarded through the centuries. It is the late visible ash of a fire they did not know they carried. The Elendi are what remains when myth marries history, forgets its own name, and leaves children behind. And now, those children are waking.